Welcome back to the Broadman Word, and we are continuing to look through the creation of the world. And last time we talked about day one and the creation of light, and today we are going to be on day two, of course, but we are going to be talking about an expanse and what that means exactly when we hear the word expanse, and what does God actually create on this day too? So with that being said, go back to Genesis chapter 1. We're going to be looking at verses 6 through 8 today. So nothing too crazy, but there's still a lot there, of course. So let us dive right in with verse 6. And God said, "Let there be an expanse in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters." All right, so first off, what does the word expanse actually mean? Um, for me, I think it's just a talking about a separation. A lot of the times, this word can also be translated as canopy, which we'll get to that in a second. But there's just supposed to be this separation of something from something. Now, what's interesting about that is what it actually separates. So it separates what is called at the end of verse 6, the waters from the waters. Now, what does this actually mean exactly? Well, I think it means two things. First, it's talking about the waters that the Spirit of God was hovering over in verse 2. So in verse 2, just a reminder, the earth was without form and void, and darkness was over the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. So again, there's no form when we're talking about seas and land, because that is coming on Thursday as we look at day 3. But there is waters there. God has created waters in this empty void that is called earth, as we saw in verse 2. So that is there already. So now he is just separating those things. Now, why does he do this? Why can't he just have it stay the way that it is? Well, one, he is sculpting, which I think is really an interesting way to look at his creation. He is sculpting the form of the earth before land even comes into play on day 3. So it's a preparation move by God getting ready to form or to create dry land again on day 3. So I think that's what we mean when we're seeing the word expanse in the midst of the waters, and let's separate the waters from the waters. It's a canopy, it's a separation, and it's setting up. It is setting up the forming of dry land. Now, the other thing that I think it could be pointing at is the creation of atmosphere, which is so cool to see. So you have the different stratospheres, or the different levels of our atmosphere. And I think here it could be hinting at that. But let's continue on with something that I think will help with that in verse 7. And God made the expanse and separated the waters that were under the expanse from the waters that were above the expanse. And it was so. And then verse 8, and God called the expanse heaven. So we'll go with the rest of verse 8 here in a second. But there's two things here. Starting with verse 8, and God called the expanse heaven. Now, is he talking about the actual place of heaven that we will spend eternity in with God? Maybe, but I don't think so. I think in this context, we're just calling the expanse a unique name. For instance, the Hebrew word for heaven here can also mean sky. And so for me, I think in the context of creation, I do like that translation of sky, based on the context, based on the Hebrew word. I think sky makes a lot of sense, but again, in that time, heaven also makes a lot of sense as a translation of that word. So for that being said, I think it's really cool to see God just orchestrating the fact that the expanse is not just this random maneuver that he does in creation. No, it's a creation in itself. He is literally creating atmosphere. He is creating the sky at this point, and doing so in order to prepare the forming of dry land on day 3. Uh, Again, just the creativity, the planning of God is fantastic to see. But then in verse 7, you have, by the way, I think one of the coolest just pictures that you can think of. When it says that God made the expanse and separated the waters that were under the expanse from the waters that were above the expanse, the verb made here, I think, is really, really cool to see. First, made is fine. Created is also fine. A lot of scholars believe that this could be translated as fashioned as well. So it's almost like you can picture it that God is just intricately weaving the sky into place, the levels of our atmosphere into place that have to be so minutely specific and accurate, because if they aren't, then every living thing on the earth would die. And it's just this incredible artistry in creation that God shows, just by separating the waters from what we're going to talk about here in a second, the other waters, but by creating atmosphere and creating the sky. Just what a beautiful and wonderful and majestic God that we serve. Now, with that, last thing that I want to cover here on the second day, or second to last thing, the second to last thing is this waters from the waters, or this waters that were under the expanse from the waters that were above the expanse. This really kind of goes into the worldwide flood. It's almost setting it up in respect. So there is a theory out there called the canopy theory, that the reason why the world flooded or had a global flood was because there was this canopy of water that was waiting and hovering around Earth's atmosphere for the time of the global flood. So a lot of people point back to this passage. One, because expanse could be translated as canopy. So that's one reason. And then the other reason is that there's this waters above the expanse. I totally understand where they are coming from, and that could certainly be possible. The canopy theory has a lot of pros to it. I think it could definitely be how the global flood came about. But at the same time, is there another way to look at this? I think there is. I think it could be that you could possibly view the waters above the expanse as just being a part of our atmosphere. Could it also be referencing clouds and the water cycle of the earth? I think that is absolutely possible here. So whether you see the expanse and the waters above the expanse and the waters under the expanse as the canopy, as a support for the canopy theory, or if you see it just talking about the Earth's atmosphere and the water cycle, I think both of those could be true here. But either one, again, just shows the creativity of God at work. And so with that, let's end verse 8 and day 2 here. And there was evening and there was morning the second day. If you want to go more into why I think that there is 24-hour cycles when we're talking about the word day, go back to last time with our discussion of day 1 to get more info on that. But second day has come and gone. So you have light, you have darkness, you have waters, you have this expanse or the sky, and then you have this water above the expanse, which again could be a canopy or it could just be talking about clouds and the water cycle and the atmosphere itself. Either way, God's creativity is already shining, is already just remarkable just within 2 days. But he continues that by creating not just land, but by creating vegetation on day 3, which is where we are going to go next on Thursday. So thank you for spending a little bit of time with me today as we saw the creativity of God at work with this thing called the expanse and with waters underneath and above it. So hopefully I will see you Thursday, but thanks for spending some time with me today. Thanks.